Hello, this is Robert. Frank Lloyd Wright is America's greatest architect. He not only used his formidable talents to design beautiful homes, but he also sought to design beautiful communities where the occupants lived in a closer harmony with nature. In 1932, he did his first great design, considered the granddaddy of all of his housing projects. It was called Broadacre City, and it was presented in the book The Disappearing City in 1932. Wright's design for Broadacre City was the opposite of a congested contemporary city of the day. The design had each family given a 1-acre plot to develop as they liked in a decentralized city with the main transportation based on cars. Farms and forest areas were interspersed, forecasting modern suburbia. The homes are a precursor to later Usonian homes. Suntop Homes in 1939 is the first of Wright's quadruple homes, 4 multi-story Usonian homes around a cross-shaped dividing wall core. There was 1 multi-story home for each quadrant of the 4-unit building. Each home had a private garden. Suntop Homes was located in Ardmore, Pennsylvania. The units were built of brick and cypress wood. Only one of the 4 quad units was built for $16,000. Also, in 1939, there was the Usonia 1 project in Lansing, Michigan. There were 7 Michigan State University professors. They formed a building cooperative. A building cooperative is when homeowners pool their money for better prices on land, materials, and labor. It's risky if partners default, but overall it is beneficial for the owners in terms of cost savings. Many of these cooperative housing projects would commit to certain design principles. Many of them tried to base their houses on Mr. Wright's teachings and philosophy. So the Usonia 1 project, 7 Michigan State University professors form a building cooperative. Catherine Winkler and Alma Getch contacted Wright, who designed 7 houses around a central farm. Financing fell through just as Harold Turner was about to start construction on the project. Only the Getch-Winkler house was built on another site. The Getch-Winkler house is considered Wright's best inline Usonian design. It has a compact workspace, dining, fireplace, and living room alcove layout. The original Usonia 1 house for the Brauners was not built. The Brauners used a new Wright design elsewhere on other property in 1948 in Okemos, Michigan. Another house in Usonia, the Panshin House, is a precursor to our Sidney Miller house. The second of Mr. Wright's quad house projects was the Cloverleaf Usonian houses in Pittsfield, Massachusetts. This was a wartime 1942 project for the U.S. government. Originally, it was all precast reinforced concrete building units. There were 100 housing units, 2 or 3 story, all concrete, with a wood top floor on the 3 stories. The plan is a larger and more refined version of the Suntop homes. Mr. Wright developed his own building system of precast slabs connected with giant staples. Later versions have wood-lap siding on interior walls and balcony parapets. Wright called it picturesque standardization. Local architects did not want to lose a big project job to an out-of-state architect and got the Wright project canceled. The next co-op project was Cooperative Homesteads in 1942. Again, with the U.S. government funding, it was a planned 100-acre farm community near Detroit, Michigan. There were 79 houses on 1-acre lots with their own gardens and self-supporting farmland. Modest single-story homes with earth berm insulation, used rammed earth construction, and a hip roof overhead. They would have been built for a low $4,000 cost. This back-to-the-earth project was halted by the war and the draft. The berm house design was eventually built in concrete block and berm in 1950 as the Keys House in Rochester, Minnesota. Rising post-war costs for materials and higher prices for skilled labor forced Wright to raise his estimates, even for a basic Usonian house. There are two types of Usonian houses. We know the cheap basic originals of the 1930s designed for a low price, but there were also many later upscale Usonians using more masonry and more elaborate designs. $15,000 is now the bottom for a good house. Might as well face it, Mr. Wright said in 1948. The next project was post-war, the Galesburg Country Homes Acres in 1947 near Kalamazoo, Michigan. There were 40 homes on round 1-acre sites. There was common forest property and spaces between lots. Galesburg Country Homes was formed by 6 Upjohn Company chemists, built 10 miles east of Kalamazoo, Michigan. Mr. Wright designed 4 houses using a revised version of his 1920s textile concrete block system. During this period, Mr. Wright increased the versatility of the textile block system as he had demonstrated at Florida Southern College and other projects. The owners tried to make their own blocks from molds provided by Taliesin. Contractors helped finish the homes, though. There were 4 Wright houses completed. The first house completed was the Weisblatt House in 1948, followed by the Pratt House in 1948, the Epstein House, also in 1948. The Epstein House is a long, in-line Usonian with perforated concrete block windows and a large skylight over the entry and workspace. Wright's Galesburg Country Homes were all built in 1948, and the Meyer House in 1948. The Meyer House is a solar hemicycle house. A solar hemicycle house catches the sunlight all day as the sun traverses the sky. Some of the Galesburg partners did not want to drive all the way out of town, and they found a 47-acre orchard lot just outside on the south side of Kalamazoo, and they built Parkwind Village in 1948. Again, this cooperative used Wright's textile block designs. The first built was the Levin House in 1948, the McCartney House in 1949. The Ward McCartney House used the textile block system in a house that had 30-degree and 60-degree angles. The McCartney House was designed as a simple living room unit at first and was later expanded with a bedroom wing. The Brown House in 1950 and the Wynn House in 1950. In the winter of 1949 and 50, they planted over 11,000 trees on the site. It was unique in that there were no above-ground power lines or street lights. And now, at last, we come to Usonia Homes, which began in 1947 officially in Pleasantville, New York. There were 50 one-acre round tracts on 97 acres. It was the brainchild of engineer David Henkin, a former Wright apprentice, and Aaron Resnick. David Henkin was an engineer, a builder, and a contractor. Wright was to design the master plan and all the homes. Later, he would approve the designs of other architects to be used in the project. Mr. Wright ended up only designing 5 homes. David Henkin designed 13 of the homes in Usonia Homes, as did Aaron Resnick. Many homeowners employed other architects for their own homes. Mr. Wright took exception to one architect and left the project. Only 3 of the 5 Wright homes were built, all of the local stone, as it was the most economical material to use. The County Board of Assessors took exception to the circular home sites, and they were later changed to polygons, as they were in many of the other projects. David Henkin was Wright's main link to Usonia Homes. He served as the main contractor on many homes as well. Other contractors, such as Harold Turner, were employed but were unsuccessful dealing with the local builders. Usonia Homes incorporated in the 1950s. The first home built was for Saul Freeman in 1948. It's a 2-story stone and concrete house. It appears round, but it's actually a 20-sided polygon. The house is 2 cylindrical drums which intersect, built from poured concrete with stone veneer. Mr. Wright thought Freedman was a toy maker and designed a whimsical house complete with a mushroom-shaped carport. Usonia members were shocked at its $80,000 price. The original budget for the house was $30,000. It was the centerpiece of the community for years. The house design units are pie-shaped 18-degree radiating lines from the center of each circle. The Edward Serlin House of 1949 was the second Wright house built at Usonia Homes. It is the most conventionally Usonian of the 3 Wright houses built, in that it had a 5-foot square module and a flat roof with a shed roof over the living room. It was built in local stone and wood siding by David Henkin. Mr. Serlin and Mr. Risley pooled their money on a shipment of cypress wood. There were future Wright extensions designed for the house but were not built, despite Serlin's love for the house. The Roland Risley House of 1951 was Wright's 3rd and last house built at Usonia Homes. The unit is a 4-foot equilateral triangle. The main house has a 3-sided hip roof with huge overhangs, similar to the Palmer House. The house was sunk into a rocky hillside. A bedroom wing was added in 1956. The house has an exposed basement with a workshop, laundry, and darkroom. David Henkin finished the house after Turner and Bowers had problems with the local builders. The Risley house cost $30,000 in 1951. Mr. Risley, now a centenarian, has written an excellent book called Usonia, New York, Building a Community with Frank Lloyd Wright. There were 2 designs that were not built. The first is the Erwin Auerbach project of 1950. Mr. Wright designed a beautiful triangular house. Most of the non-Wright homes in Usonia were built by Chuck Rowe Construction. Chuck Rowe gave 2 high bids on the Wright houses. Henkin hired local tradesmen and formed Henkin Builds. The Auerbach budget was $15,000. Chuck Rowe bid $23,000 for a brick house, $21,000 for a block house. Wright insisted the house should not cost more than $18,000. The Auerbachs tried to get Wright to design a cheaper textile block home without success. They finally had contractor Chuck Rowe build an Aaron Resnick design for $19,000. And now, finally, we come to the Sidney Miller house project of 1948. The Millers' original budget was $22,000, so they asked Wright for an $11,000 house. Wright designed a beautiful house on a 4-foot hexagonal grid. The house had a large hexagonal living room under a huge gable canopy, with a polywog tail bedroom wing. Sidney Miller was a textile executive, and Barbara was a librarian. The Millers asked for a large living room, a den, 3 bedrooms, 1 bath, a kitchen, and a laundry. Also wall space for their artist sisters' paintings, and they were willing to reduce the bedroom size to keep the big living room. Mr. Wright made a note on their letter. They asked Mr. Wright to design the house with the limited budget that they had stated. Mr. Wright wrote notes on the back of the letter saying wall space, study off living room, 1 bath, screen terrace, storage, small bedrooms. Wright wrote to Henkin about the $11,000 budget. There ain't no such animal. $15,000 minimum nowadays. The Millers could not afford Wright's original house, the one I've shown here and in the model. Changing from stone masonry to concrete block did not reduce costs significantly. Wright suggested building the house in stages, initially with no bedroom wing and the living room divided into 3 bedrooms, the bedroom wing to be added later. He had done this previously in the McCartney house. This is the only Wright drawing found of the starter house. It still has the gable canopy and the north clerestory windows on the left. The second Miller design is more compact and on a single level. Design-wise, the plan is halfway between the version 1 and version 2 house designs. The living room roof axis has been shifted 60 degrees. The living room is smaller, but the kitchen, bath, and all the bedrooms are larger. Apparently, the version 1 rooms were too small for the Millers. The living room terrace now juts out like a ship's prow above the hillside. The bathroom is at the end of a long hall. Contractor Chuck Rowe had bid $28,000, and the Millers and Wright thought the bid was too high. Mr. Wright sent Harold Turner, his master builder, to look things over. Turner said it could be built for $30,000, but did not commit to doing it. The Millers had committed their full $22,000 budget by this time. Mr. Wright had redesigned the house as a more compact house with a hip roof. The bids were actually higher on this third version of the house due to the large stone plinth that the house and its terraces sat on. The Millers asked for more revisions, which Wright never got around to. In 1950, under pressure from an impending renewal of their apartment lease, disappointed that Wright was not addressing their needs and other rising costs, the Millers raised their budget again to $28,000, and in 1950 approached Aaron Resnick to design their house. Resnick tried to talk them out of it, saying Wright had given them a beautiful house. They commissioned Resnick in December of 1950. The house was completed in May of 1951 for $31,000. What could have been? When Mr. Wright did not meet their needs, they considered the Wright contract broken. Poor David Henkin was caught in the middle between Mr. Wright and the Millers. Wright had worked on perhaps 4 different versions of the Miller house. By this time, the Millers still felt that they had not gotten the house that they wanted at a price they could afford. As in all Wright houses, the heart of the house is the fireplace in the living room, which forms a large stone masonry mass that wraps around the workspace and utility areas. At the top, just to the west of the workspace, is the loggia. This has a taller roof that is 8 feet high. The tall loggia roof projects above the flat roof that covers most of the house. If we start at the bottom of the house, we have a V-shaped terrace off of the hexagonal living room. And there is a large window wall forming two sides of the hexagonal living room with French doors that rise all the way to the 16-foot high gable roof, the huge canopy roof overhead. If we go to the left side of the hexagon, we go upstairs to the higher entry level, and there's the dining room overlooking the living room. If we go back down those steps, we pass the huge fireplace in the house, and there's a seating area on the right side, the north side of the house, with a hallway wrapping around behind it. And there are shelves on the back of the couch area, and there are cabinets and closets on the right side along the exterior wall. If we follow that hallway around and past the masonry of the workspace area, we come to a set of steps which go up again to the main level of the house, and we are in the entry at that point. We're looking straight west at the front door and the walkway in from the carport. The center of the house is the workspace and the utility area, which were formerly all one space. I tried to close off the utility room with marginal success. To the left of the workspace is a large loggia facing southwest. You can walk into the dining room at one end and into a large loggia 8 feet high that projects above the low 6'8" roof of the main house and bedroom wing. The loggia has a row of French doors looking out and allowing access to the outdoors. The loggia has one hexagonal unit open, and this acts as a tree well. There is a tree growing up through the house, as in the Hannah house, and it pokes out a hole in the roof. At the west end of the loggia, at the top, we see the beginning of the bedroom hallway leading back up, and immediately on our left, there is an alcove. We have the entry to the single bathroom for the house. And it's quite tiny. There's a tub, basin, counter, and toilet all crammed into an area that's 1.5 units wide, so roughly 6 foot square. Also, we come to the first bedroom, and Mr. Wright took the advice to heart about the Millers tolerating small bedrooms to get their big living room. This one's roughly 8 by 10 feet maximum, with the bed on its side. We go back out into the hallway. The hallway has a low stone wall on its right with clerestory windows above it. I took the liberty of making these perforated board windows for privacy. There's nothing that mentions this would have been done in the Wright design. However, we have seen hallways like this in other Wright designs where they adjoin a public space, like the entry walk. The middle bedroom is slightly larger than the first bedroom, but not by much. Both bedrooms have French doors leading out onto a small terrace. At the end of the hallway is the parents' bedroom, which has a large amount of closet space and room for double beds. And at the very west end of the house, we have the carport, and it's a very tight access to the entry walkway. And there is a cutout in the roof above the carport to allow clearance for another tree to grow through. The house would have been built with concrete block overlaid with a veneer of the local stone. I took the stone pattern seen in the model from the fireplace on the Risley house. The wood walls in this house have an unusual treatment. They are not board and batten. It's a sandwich wall with a thick central core of thick vertical boards on either side, or thinner plywood sheets that they're coated with a mixture of sand and paint so as to hide the usual marks you see that reveal that it is a plywood wall and not a finished wood wall. I took this from what you see in the third version of the house, the one that has the hip roof. So the roof from the carport all the way down to the dining room on one side, and the bookshelf corner, the study corner of the living room on the other side, are the low 6'8" the flat roof level. And it remains low over the dining room, making it quite a cozy little alcove on the side of the living room. The canopy gable over the living room is 16 feet high at its crest, its ridge line, and has a row of enormous clerestory windows on the north side. This gives you a remarkable sense of non-confinement, as you can basically see clear through the living room from one side to the other up there. One issue I had with this house, I only had essentially 3 drawings to base my 3D model on. So again, I was forced to do some improvisation to flesh it out. I hope they are in accordance with what Mr. Wright would have wanted. The largest discrepancy I found, or error, fault I found, was the French doors on the southeast side of the living room, in that these are going up the full height of the living room, and they are encountering the sloping gable roof of the canopy. And you have a problem when you're doing that with French doors, in that the tops of the doors are going to be sloping, and the uphill door, fortunately, has the hinge higher than the outside edge of the door. So as the door swings out, it clears the soffit of the roof above, the eaves of the roof above. However, the lower side French door of the pair has its hinge on the bottom side and its end corner on the uphill side, so that as it swings out, it just doesn't swing far before it bangs into the eaves. So you're stuck doing some kind of change to the design in order to accommodate that. Simplest thing would be to make that door mobile, and that would allow you to keep the closest approximation to the drawing that there would be. The other thing would be to make one or both of the door tops horizontal, but you get a tiny sliver of a clerestory window, and it doesn't look that graceful or satisfying. What I ended up doing is what Mr. Wright did in the later Ablin house, and that I echoed the roof lines sloping down for the transom piece over the French doors, creating a much larger triangular clerestory transom window above each of the French door pairs, as you see here. The 3D model is of the first Wright design for the Millers. I'm fond of it as it has the huge gable canopy over the living room. The only drawback is the lack of drawings for it.